Hi everyone, Anayza here. So we're going to start this video the way I've started my journey, which is just taking a moment of silence. Just closing your eyes and just noticing the breath of your body. Thank you. Gently open your eyes. If you like, you can keep your eyes closed. But I just want to take a moment of just being with the breathing body because my journey starts the moment I first realize that I'm not thinking. I feel like that's in some ways where I've started. So this video is about the Akashic Records and my personal journey with them, how they have healed me and how now I partner with this consciousness to offer possibility and healing and love to others. So 2014, I'm in New York City, where I am right now, and I'm struggling with depression, which I've had struggled with starting from the age of about 14, and it lasted for about a decade. And someone recommends and mentions the Akashic Records and this woman who does them in Brooklyn. And at that time, I'm meditating, I'm aware of Buddhist practice, and just looking to feel better, not feel so depressed. And so I go to the woman. My first question, you should come with a list of questions. My first question is, why do I feel so sad? And she said that the sadness is forming an apex in your heart and that you've inherited it from your ancestors. When she said that, something happened to me. I'm like feeling a bit emotional just thinking about it because she saw me. She was able to reflect back something that in some ways to me was so nonsensical, just how sad I was and how it felt like that. I felt like it was this capsulizing, like having a pinnacle of sadness in my heart. And why, like, where did it come from? And like, you can name the relationships or the school or the environment or work, like all the things that are challenging, but the depth and like the breadth of my own sadness, I was like, where did it come from? And when we talked about how I inherited it from my ancestors and just how there's like a long line of sadness coming through in my family line, something about acknowledging the placement of it relieved me. And I asked a ton of more questions, and she offered insight. And what she really did, which is what I feel, on one vibration, my healer offers. All a healer can do is allow space for you to, excuse me. All a healer can do is allow space for you to find a healer in yourself. And that's what this initial session offered to me, the space to just find myself. And if that self is a healer or not, there was just a space to really feel the light of my being extracted from the intense meshing of everything else I was feeling. So going on, so I was 2014 and like moving along. I do receive another reading from this woman, and then I go deeper and deeper in my meditation practice, and I start wondering, if I could open the Akashic Records. I've Since that time I went to India and Asia and Nepal. I traveled for a year. I went to England and I started hearing voices of the angelic realms. And these voices guided me. They guided me to a farm in Vermont. When I was at the farm, I was still struggling with different emotions and struggling being there and whatnot. But I started wondering, if I have access to cosmic consciousness. And I didn't know it at that time. I just knew I was hearing voices and hearing words that were not from my thinking mind. The way they framed the words, the way the words carried a vibration that would like lift my whole body. The way my thinking mind, I feel many thinking mind can have an emotion and you like think at it and you wonder about it and then you're like kind of stuck. When I would breathe and relax and ask a question to the great beyond, to Great Spirit, the way the answer would come and the phrasing of the words and the vibration would like will shake up whatever I was feeling and offer space. And so I began wondering if I could open the Acashic Records. And I would ask her, and she would just say, just meditate, go into the silence and ask questions and just feel the first answer that comes and trust. So I practiced that. And then the journey continued on as it does, and it led me to Peru. And in Peru, as I say, I feel like I met an aspect of myself, the most true, in some ways, material aspect of the self I ever met. I was really listening to my inner guidance in Peru and not really having a plan at all, and just going to random towns and just every day looking at the map, asking where I should go, and they would go here, and I would just go there. After a week of doing this, I landed in the Sacred Valley. It was also challenging still for different reasons. But about a month being there, because I knew I was supposed to be there. I'm like, there's nowhere else to go. I'm at the end of the map. Like, I wasn't even like, I was still planning the map where I should go. I just knew, I'm like, this is it. This is the place. So Anayza, it's time to surrender. But it took me, a bit of time to do that. My friend told me about, there's many people know about Machu Picchu, but between Cusco and Machu Picchu, it's called the Sacred Valley of the Incas. And there are so many ruins all along the Sacred Valley of the Incas. And my friend told me about these ruins in Marae, and they're, and I feel that's correct. And there are these agricultural ruins, and that there's a portal there. There's portals everywhere. And so I went. So I'm about to talk about my personal journey of coming into contact with the Acashic Records. Everyone's journey is different, and what I receive from them is that how everyone perceives their Akashic Records and able to access them is unique to their own soul journey. For me, what happened, so for me, what happened is I went to this ruin and I like took my shoes off and I went inside, which you're not allowed to do. I like went down into ruins. And it's nice, you can still have that sort of connection and like with something in this age of intense tourism. And I started having all these visions. I was meditating and I like went to other worlds. It was such an intense journey. Part of that journey, what happened is that I called down an aspect of my own soul off the Akashic Council. I essentially did a soul retrieval without knowing anything about this, and I never heard of. I know I've heard of soul retrieval definitely at that time, but I didn't know about the Akashic Council or anything like that. This is all something I received in that moment, and it was such a visceral experience. And I was like, huh. And then, gratitude to the spirits of that site and that land, and then I just continued walking on. And then I heard the next day that I had to go to this other sacred site called Tambo, and so I was a bit tired from all the travels before, but I was like, I have to go, so I went, and it was really empty. And I've been there before, and it has been super crowded with lots of tourists, so I was really very fortunate how empty it was. And I climbed and I just sat some place on inside the ruins, and the records just opened in that moment, and I just knew they opened. And it was like I saw a purple grid, and it was also like a purple coliseum, also a purple library, and it was just like this purple light grid just opened across all as far as the eye could see. And I was just like, this is it. And it was like I've known it all along. And in truth, we have known our own soul's history all along, but also I could feel that, I now know it. Like I now consciously am in contact with this etheric realm of knowledge. So I'm going to pause here and to say what the Akashic Records are. The Akashic Records are an energetic library that stores every event, thought, experience that has ever happened in a soul lineage. So if you can think of it, that everything that happens, everything of matter, of physical matter, also is energetic. And so there's an energetic signature that gets stored in the Akashic Records of your soul. The Akashic Records, they say it to me in different ways, but they say it's like the soul book of all history, which is now. And so when there's a reading, there's so another part of this, when I say now, and so then there's something else to talk about, which is time and the multidimensional nature of time and the frequential nature of time. So we are always speaking and talking from a certain frequency, and that frequency has a particular past and a particular future, but that it's not the only past or future, and it's not the only frequency of which there's history. You can come from a higher vibration or a lower, or just a different vibration, and from that vibration, your personal history and the Earth's history is different, as it's its future, as is its now. Like right now, I feel, and maybe you can feel as well, that it feels like there are multiple Earths on this Earth, like multiple dimensional realities, and it's so interesting. I just think sometimes if you walk down the street and there's all these people you see, just think about all the people you didn't see, all the people, and like, for what is the reason that you didn't see them? And one reason will be just that you're just not at the same vibrational frequency, and so you just won't see each other. And if you could just like, tune into that, you're like, whoa, how much is just here? How much are we not seeing? And then, how much is capable to see and to feel? So and also, just to say again, that the Akashic Records have said we're the soul, we're the soul history, the book of the soul history, which is now. And people talk about, we don't need to talk about the past and like past lives. That's something that comes up a lot in terms of when people ask about past lives. The only response that any Akashic reader will give you, I feel, if they're reading in integrity, is presence. So anytime I or anyone talks about your past life, what happened in your childhood, it's because there's a vibration of that pattern, challenge, and wisdom that's living in you in this present moment. And so we will continue, and this is kind of what they talk about, the karma, or this is the cycles of samsara. Like, the reason why we keep reincarnating is because actually a part of us is frozen in a trauma or in some sort of in a past life. And actually that fragment of our being doesn't just stop because our consciousness is landed in this body. It keeps being exhibited in this life. And it's incredible how many times you can name something that happened in past life, and you have the same characteristics. For example, I mean, there's so many examples, but the one that comes to mind, I was doing this live reading on Facebook, and someone asked about their past life, and I was like, I see you, like, it's like, olden days, and there's night, and you're kind of, you're a female, and it seems like you're keeping your eyes down, like you have, like, there's like a way that you feel really oppressed by the system, and like the system of like patriarchy, and it felt like maybe the church, and this is the system of dominance. But this is from way back, and how I just see you avoiding your age and kind of not stepping up in your power. And this is a abbreviation, but what her response was, I have a really hard time looking at people's eyes, and I have challenges with authority. So these things that we have in our body now may be carried from past lives, but also they can just be from our parents, from our ancestors. We are a collection of inheritance. And because of all the trauma that has happened on our land and in our collective environment, our inheritance tends to be suffering and trauma, but also our inheritance is full of wisdom and beauty and pleasure and knowing of the earth. And from my experience healing my own self and healing other people, a part of getting to the wisdom and the pleasure is moving through and knowing the fear and the pain. So I'm just going to pause because I think I went on a bit of a tangent. But this is the Akashic Records. the memory. It's memory. And it's when we can know and speak the true memory or the proper memory, I feel, I trust in, you know, the deepest nuggets, crevices of my being, we can truly step forward and change. We've been telling a sort of watered down and hyper polarized history, and it's true, it's here, it's present, but what else is here? What else is present? What else can we connect to? What other pain and what other pleasure can we connect to sort of come back into our unity as a humanity and with the other species and kingdoms on this planet, the elemental realms and the angelic realms and the realms underneath this earth, so that we can step forward into change. Okay, so I'm pausing. So I'm on a tangent. So I'm going to go back. I opened the Acashic Records in Peru. They opened, and I there was no doubt in my body, in my being, what has happened. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like so much was happening to me at this time. Before this, I wasn't offering healing. I wasn't doing anything, and so all this stuff is happening. And so of course, you have to practice. You have to practice. And I was just telling my friends, like, I can do this. I can do these things. Can I practice with you? And I remember I went with two friends, and they were a couple, and they were Peruvian. They're from Lima. We went to this really cool another portal, because that's what you do in Peru. You just like go on hikes and you find portals. And it was this really cool portal that felt super star being alien. And I read the Akashic Records for them at the same time, and it was just super resonant for them. This one friend in particular, I have to say thank you to all the people who believed in me on this journey, because it's such a far out thing for me to say a lot of these things. And they just, and people continue to just believe in me so much that I can't help but trust myself. But it's partly in the reflection, it's partly, the me I see in their eyes. And I am so grateful to have such beautiful reflections and mirrors. And just thank you so much. So then after that, I started practicing, and then I was like, all right, I really, I want to do this. I want to do this, or this wants to do me, or this is, I've chosen this has chosen me. It's all blurring together, because I've never in my life felt like I found uh, uh, something I can do that is so aligned with who I am and my being, and it brings so much alive for both me and everyone I share it with, that there's nothing else but for me to pursue this and to see what's really here for me. So I began working at Ayahuasca Retreat Center in the Sacred Valley, offering integrative healing sessions between medicine ceremonies. And I work about 4 or 5 retreats for a couple of months, and it's very transformative. I mean, I'm doing up to 5 sessions a day sometimes, and I'm only working for 2 weeks out of the month. And then it's just like things are just moving so quickly. Systemic constellations, family constellations. Came to me the summer that I was in Vermont that I mentioned. And the woman who introduced it to me has become my healing partner / collaborator, and we started working together offering family constellations. So that was also a big moment for me, and I just really stepped into myself as a healer. So that's a bit about, so I know, let me just focus on the Akashic Records. So I spoke about what they are. I spoke about how I encountered them. I spoke about how they helped me. And now I'm just going to speak a bit about why I feel they're so useful and why I offer them for other people. And I think it is what I said and how they helped me. I feel so like yesterday, I'll give an example. Someone asked me about relationships. I do these live Facebook um, feeds, readings online in this Facebook group, and someone asked me about relationships, and I could feel, what I received was I can really feel the neediness of it and like how that creates a short tension. And what's really being called for is like a state of relaxation, going back into yourself so that your threads can like relax and they can elongate. And so that when they're relaxed and elongated, then they can find someone, and that person can be intrigued and like move towards you, because when we focus on what we need, it actually creates a container where it's hard to receive it, and it makes someone feel in some ways unsafe and unable to stay. Once again, I didn't say those exact words, but what the Akashic records offer are a perspective into what's alive for you that brings out like a new mind. And also, it's not just the words, but it's the vibrational frequency from which the words are given and placed. It's like, in some ways, it's like someone is speaking from your own self back to you. And I don't say that like this is like, my eye or anything, but from my experience with the Akashic records is that to be able to access them is to be able to really read a person's light and read a person's shadow, and to really respond to them from such an intimate way. And also when I do these readings, it's so intimate and yet it's so collective, because in our deepest places you really find how our similarities rather than our differences. So there's so many healing modalities and they're all beautiful. If you move towards them with their own intention of, whatever word you'll use, if it's peace or love or freedom, to know yourself, like whoever you are who's watching, which modality is for your highest good and your highest evolution. The Akashic Records has been a part of my journey and my evolution in understanding and reframing the words and like the logic that we're told and the power that we're told, and like bringing from the silence, bringing words of life. And they have really helped my system, and they help others' systems. I'm just going to pause here and see if there's anything else. So I'm feeling that I'm feeling silence and I'm feeling complete. So my name is Anayza, and I share right now as a healer, and I offer Akashic Record readings, intuitive healings, and family and systemic constellations. I do all of these things online via Zoom, and I also do them in person, one-on-one or in group. So family and systemic constellations happens in groups. I'm located in Brooklyn, New York right now, but my location changes often. I am on my earth walk is taking me to many places on this earth for this time. And I'm hosting right now a series called Becoming Whole in Brooklyn, New York. And it's coming up this coming Wednesday and next Wednesday. And we do use family constellations, systemic constellations, and ritual to kind of step into our beingness more, and step into our bodies and our journeys of becoming whole. So I really hope you enjoyed my talk and that you found it resonant. And there's more information about me on my website and on Facebook in lots of different ways. Information that elaborates on what I shared today, and or maybe fills in spaces that I didn't share. And I guess lastly, there's an invitation always for just you to step into your own intuition. And that may or may not mean accessing the Akashic Records or using that terminology, but from the silence you have the answers. You truly do. We all do. And we can help each other, remind each other that we are that. But it also just takes, the trust. If anything, I'm just a reflection of your own knowing. My knowing is your knowing. And it's journey. Thank you all so much for listening. Blessings, peace, and light, and lots of love.